So let me quickly and very briefly just introduce Akshay. So firstly, Akshay, thank you for being a part of Startup Grind and coming here on a Saturday. So Akshay is, I would say, he's from Pune, having done his masters from Symbiosis Institute of Management Studies, and then he got into working with different organizations. He started with Wipro, Spectrumine first, and then he moved all the way from he moved to Bajaj Alliance Life within marketing and corporate communications. Then from there he jumped to head marketing at Policy Bazaar, then to Big Bazaar, another retail company as CMO. So it's been a varied experience and different moves and amazing, phenomenal moves within the career. And then finally he started EarlySalary, and the kind of growth that EarlySalary has, it's amazing to have EarlySalary in Pune as one of the phenomenal success stories of late, and really kind of poised to become one of the next unicorns within India as an Indian startup. So I know there's so many things that I would like to really introduce and talk about, but I'll take up a lot of time. So if you could tell us a little more about your journey.
Sure, maybe I'll start. Thanks, guys. So I think most people wonder, why do people become entrepreneurs and why did I take the leap? But I'll just take you through a quick synopsis of my career life. So I passed out of Symbi in 2004, spent 8 years in one company. Within 3 years, I became the marketing head, digital control, marketing, and some of the other sales functions for the both life and online companies. Decided one day to join a startup. Policy Bazaar, literally a one-room office when we moved. Moving from a 10,000 crore company to a 16-member company is extremely difficult. I saw a spark in that idea. And with Yashish, Alok, and Rakesh said this is a great venture to be. Within 2 years, when I exited, we already had Tiger and a few other investors already onboarded. I think today it becomes a unicorn, but it took a fair amount of time to really build a large-scale aggregator. In 2008, internet was still coming together, and there was no penetration of financial product online. But today, it does more financial transactions than most insurance companies. Right? So it's a great evolutionary step. We saw that there, and I said it's a great place to be. I spent 2 years with them, built the entire marketing and online marketing practice to acquire millions of consumers. But one day I said, what more for me? I've been in the startup, did the thing. And I was still very young, 29, 30. I said, can I go to the next level to learn something much more different? And then one day I came across Mr. Jani's company, and I met him and really saw retail as a category I'd never done. FMCG is extremely complicated, dream for a marketer. Marketing budgets of companies are more than even a turnover of large companies, right? So like a 500 crore marketing budget. So I said, shit, I have to go and learn that. Spent 3 years with him and really building the next stage of Big Bazaar, building FPV and many other brands there, and building large consumer acceptance. But some things which I learned in the three companies are very different. The first was Bajaj was actually a startup. It started off with 60 people, and I exited maybe 10 or 1,000 employees. But we saw the journey of how everyone is always focused on frontline. Every single person knew it's important to sell. Right? When I went to Policy Bazaar, it inverted to prison. It actually said there is no salesperson. Right? Kept to the label customer acquisition. Right? Yet you have to acquire only on a monoline, only online, only on a website. And the focus that we all had on dedicating the customer funnel became very important. Right? On the other hand, when we went to Future Group, the learning was extremely different. The learning was to understand consumer behavior 100%. You did not do anything without understanding the entire customer journey, as well as how the product comes to the shelf and how it gets sold. So if you don't know what goes into the product, you can never market it. Right? So the involvement of the product team was not to say I'll sell a soap. It was, can I get it manufactured on my own, or can I work with a manufacturer to give a better product for my consumer? And how does it get consumed over time? So you have to really understand consumption patterns and how manufacturing actually takes place. You can't come and say, I'm going to sell large amounts of mango without realizing if you don't place the order 8 months back and know what the crop is going to be and if it did monsoon hit or not, so you get mango delivered to your stores. So you have to really work that much in advance, or even to come and say, listen, it's going to be a good winter, it's going to be a bad winter. You predict those things to say, can I put up a new product line? So working closely with the product team, category team, then working with the front end teams to sell the product out. So over time, I think my own career has always been to really go to the grassroots to find out what's going to happen and can I predict future. And today, when we decided to build a company out, we had to go back to a very different grassroots level. We said credit is an under-penetrated product in the country. Youngsters do not get any access to credit. While our MVP or our first product was to solve a very simple problem that young people don't have money to go on dates on one time. Till date, we look at that simple problem. It looked very simple. I'll give you a small amount of money, go enjoy yourself. But to evaluate a person within a few minutes and to give him a small amount of money without a human intervention meant a lot of things to be done. We had to build everything on our own. There was no ability available in the country at that time. FinTech was evolving, everyone spoke about algorithms, and yeah, you could lend on a mobile app, but that's not reality. When you go and build something from ground, you have to understand not only consumption behavior, but how tech will work, how will you build scorecards, how will you build analytical systems, how will you build actual machine learning to give results out. And it took a fair amount of time, for almost a year, patiently lending to a few people, recovering money and seeing how the cycle works. Can we open up a new town, new behavior, what type of acceptance do we get, etc. So until that, the actual machine learning piece got built, we couldn't lend large volumes. So as that got kicked in, we said, now it's time to find large numbers. Can we look at acquiring maybe 1 million people a month? Right? Can we look at doing 40 to 50,000 loans a month? Typically, banks don't look at such volume. A bank to do 40,000 loans a month, they will be buying 5 buildings, putting up a lot of people to do processing, having a large distribution team, and putting a lot of underwriting function people to run the model. We actually have 2 underwriters. Right? We do same model volume. We said we create our own tech-enabled platform which automates everything. Right? It takes a lot of effort to invest in best-in-class actual machine learning individuals and tech process company owners. Right? And most importantly, you're doing it in-house, you're not outsourcing anything, and you're chasing behind a great timeline. Actually, if you look at 3 years, is nothing. Right? The amount of aging customer cycles that we have, we actually behave like a 30-year-old bank. We have 12 cycle run product already. That means we have given loans to average 10 to 12 times. That paid us back. We know their histories. If you're a financial institution, will be minimum 20-30 years old. Imagine that learning compressing in short amount of time, yet building an asset-heavy model. We own our own balance sheet. And building an organization that much in speed only comes by putting people who understand every single pie in the pyramid. So there has to be an expert who knows how to get money. There has to be an expert who has to really build best-in-class tech. There has to be an expert who really knows machine learning to the next level. It's not yet invented in the country, you're inventing it. And you have people who really understand consumer behavior, spend behavior, how you analyze that behavior, etc. Now that can only happen by putting up a very strong team and making sure they are focused at that objective. So over time, we have been just, and we are a very monoline focus. This is the only thing we do. We don't allow any distraction. We actually sit in our single office. We don't allow anyone to work outside office. If you're not here, you're not working. It's an extremely different culture to think startup. When you are so focused on building a single product line, you know what outcome you want. You believe in extreme perfection. And I think that's been my learning over the last 15 years of career plus being an entrepreneur. Of how do you really focus at a thing and execute to perfection?
Great. I mean, that's amazing because you said these different things that you picked up and everything adds some kind of value or the other, no matter what domain you're in. But you've always been involved with regards to giving access the right kind of services, at the right time with the right kind of people. And then we build a model around it. So I have a lot of questions that develop from that, but I know since the topic of this discussion is really funding, I'd like to begin with, let's say, pre-seed funding to Series B. That's not been an easy journey. It's been really amazing. But when you look at this, your entire model is based on having the money to lend out, right? So, two questions here. One is you cannot have access to a large market because you need to have capital to be able to provide that, right? So, there's a chicken and egg situation. And without the kind of money that you need, you may not be able to reach out to this number of people. So, over here, what I'm going to ask you is, what are the things in your mind that you prepare for when you begin?
So I think there are two components here. I think all of us get a little worried when you look at putting up or asking for money. There are two parts. In our model, money is working capital. If you don't have, you don't start, you can't run the business. I don't even call it pre-seed, it's paper money. The deal was me and Ashish will quit our jobs if we get $1.5 million plus an NBFC license, a license to stuff up. Right? But we actually raised it over a weekend, that's it. We wrote a one piece paper. We said it's difficult to explain. We made a 5 screens of an app and said this is what we are building. We did that for 48 hours. On next Sunday morning, we had to raise the money. It was that easy. But the reason we raised money was not that. There was no discussions of what's the value, how it will go, what will happen. The premise was simple that we are going to make sure that the damn idea is going to work. We're doing nothing else in our life. We're putting the best in class jobs to do this, move all the way back to Pune, set this up peacefully, and run it without taking any money out of it. That was as simple objective at that time. Of course, we were focused how we're going to build it out, what's going to happen over the next few weeks. We did everything. In fact, from moving to Pune to launching a product in the market, we spent 97 days. We were told it's impossible. It takes 1 year to build a financial institution. Go get a license, get the license transferred to your name, start lending, building up a product team, hiring 30-40 people. Takes a lot of time. 97 days we gave our first loan. And so that's the amount of precision that we were working and extreme timeline pressure that we worked at. But it took us almost 300 days before we could prove the model works. And we didn't go and start doing the first rule of internet mistake, open up too many markets. We were first in Pune, Bangalore alone. We patiently waited. We said we get a lot of consumer demand tomorrow, we're not interested. We kept focusing on only a segment of consumer that we wanted to cater to. Until that first 300 days were over, we had done a few hundred loans, we proved the model is ready, only then we went out to start meeting our first venture. By the time this was 2006 end, which means no one's getting funded for that 6 months. Actually, I met 138 venture pitches. And I'm not talking about meeting a junior member of a venture, at least there were 35 of them who had an IC meeting for us. We actually met everyone in the venture fund, did a 2-day pitch and said, guys, why? And we also started wondering what's going wrong. Why are we not getting funded? But it took that much time and we did raise our Series A of 4 million from one institutional investor and one from a classical venture fund, like EG and DHFL. But on the other hand, our Series B happened overnight. So the gap between Series A and B was 60 days. We didn't go out. When the fund actually came in, H.O. Fidelity came on board and gave us 100 crores upfront. And then met us in that time, they were also not sure. The market was closed, no one was getting funded. But once the cycle opened up, it was better to raise at that time. But the clear parts were on 2-3 lines. It's not easy raising money. 138 rejections is extremely difficult. Right? You'll forget who are the people you are meeting. I still have a list of people and how the interaction went, and it was not easy. Right? From the elevator pitches to actually sitting in a meeting which had 37 people in one room, grilling you for 8 hours straight, and then saying, we love you guys, but we don't have a point of view on FinTech yet. Right? But I think that's important. You can't say maybe you didn't explain your product great. Maybe it's too early for him. Maybe he couldn't say, why do you need so much money? And the other part is, there's a stage where you're still selling a dream. Cities A is still a dream. Right? B is when you're in a growth stage. Right? When you're trying to build an organization. When you move away from just saying, I have an idea, I want to do something else. So because it's an idea at that stage, you're really selling the idea in yourself more and more. And it's a journey that we all go through.
Entrepreneurs or founders, or anyone for that matter, they don't want to give away too much equity for the kind of funds they're raising. Right? Now, especially pre-seed. So, but you need money to kind of, make more money. So in this case, what would you recommend to all of us? I mean, how should one calculate equity in exchange for money?
So I don't think an entrepreneur, or at least today a startup entrepreneur, is doing this for money. If you're really after money, take up a good job to really pay well. If you're doing it for really passion for it and the amazing journey you will have, you'll do it. Right? The second part is money is very important. Right? There is no business cannot run without money. Right? We saw a cycle where there was no money and we had to really sell up our homes to power that money when we needed to. But the important part is, if you need X, you need to know that how will that X give a result to. Right? Will it build something much larger? The second part is, there are investors, but they look at the financial transaction. You need to find the right one which suits your appetite. Don't be desperate to raise money. The day you remove the desperation, you raise the easiest amount of money. You're looking at people who are as patient in your journey to make it large. If anyone says that I'm looking to come on board for a short tenure, I want to exit, I invest in many startups and I want to exit quickly, I worry about those investors. Why do you want him? Why do you want to clutter your capital with the person who just wants to exit? Does he really believe in something that he's building? Of course, there is a money benefit, etc. that you want to make. But if you're in too short run, go to the stock market and invest, it's easier to do it. But you really believe that you can add value and help create an organization which is extremely different, which solves a problem. Of course, it will make money. Right? And most of the time, people invest in your ability to do and execute really well. So if that's the focus, remain pristine to it. Don't worry about how much and what value. At an early stage, if you have the right, let's say, angels or right seed funders, etc. coming on board, they may ask for an irrational valuation. But if the venture succeeds, those will get corrected over time. Remember, there is no company if you are not there. The startup cannot function without the entrepreneur, and the entrepreneur is very different from the CEO or the CTO or some senior guy running the actual execution, because for him it's his baby, right? The house doesn't run without the mother or the father. There's a house, everything will happen, the maid will do things, but the house doesn't run without these two. Right? Similarly, a business cannot run without the entrepreneur who lives, eats and does only this. So and never worry, उसको ज़्यादा share मिला, मेरे को कम मिला, वो ठीक हो जाएगा. Because if you're not making money, the company is not making money, the company will shut down. Because the next guy cannot invest. Because he needs to see your skin in the game for a longer window. Right? And if you keep getting investors who are looking at too short run parts, then you're going behind the wrong trees. Stop barking the wrong trees, it's not going to help. You need anchors who will support you in time. Pick the ones which are better, who will stay with you in the journey. And always pick the ones who have ability to handle stress. That becomes very important.
So, you mentioned finding the right investor. Easier said than done, right?
It's not easy.
Because even within a particular fund, you may have 10 different partners. But actually, just that one partner gets the vision as to where you're coming from and what you're looking to accomplish. So, how do you think one should really prepare to not only approach and more importantly, first find the right investor and then approach the right investor?
So this cannot be taught. Right? It's something that you learn over time. Right? But I'd only say two parts. Remember to sell a correct, good story. Don't oversell it, don't undersell it. The biggest mistake we do is we oversell too much. Right? Learn to speak a little less. Right? Tell only what is good and what is right in your business. Right? You have to say the right, not everything is hunky-dory, what's going wrong. And the minute you know how much to speak correct, you realize that the guy on the other side, most investors suffer from ADD. Because they meet just too many people here. Right? A PE fund will interact with, has to invest in 5 in a year. So he'll interact with 50 by the time you reach him. The VC has to do maybe 50 a year, so he'll interact with 500. The angel and let's say the accelerator angel and the early stage guys have to invest in 500, so he's going to meet 5,000. Right? That means he's going to give you 7 minutes to think. You still have to spend 2 days with the guy he likes. Right? So it's about how do you know what to speak in those 7 minutes so he's get interested in the next 20 or the next 100 or the next 5 days. Right? Because they have to be coming on, they're going to be with you for some time. Like our seed actually came in Series B and said, I want to reinvest. We were like, sir, it's too large, I'm reinvesting. He actually today kept reinvesting over time because he believes that he's in the long run. Right? And that's very important. Right? If you get people to buy into your vision, they are going to be with you. At the same time, I think it's more of a combination of art, right? And really being honest. You will interact the right way. And please, that's not correct. In a venture fund, people's roles are extremely defined. It's not like one of the 10 partners knows and you're able to sell a story. If it's not his category, he's not going to manage it for you. And by the way, you don't meet the partner. You start off with the most junior person there. It starts off with 80% of us believe we pitched on a phone call or a Skype. That's not a pitch. That's the most junior person trying to figure out are you worth even wasting time with the next guy who we can only meet 10 people in a day. Right? So you really look at it from that matter that are you able to reach out to the right person who can make an impact? And don't have to run behind everyone to go and pitch. Okay? Do a little bit of homework, figure out what the category, can they actually invest in your, like one of them SaaS. How many people do SaaS? How many people do FinTech? How many people do retail? How to do a particular category? You need to know that. Spend that time doing your homework. Then know how to pitch it correctly. And practice. Don't fumble. He's got 10 minutes. You waited for the 10 minutes for a few weeks to get that 10 minutes.
So this is perfect. Now, a follow-up question that comes to mind is, let's say someone in SaaS or someone in FinTech would definitely look for investors in that space. How does one prepare for the chance that maybe the investor, today companies are looking at providing a solution for a very small part of the problem. It brings a lot of value. Okay. But in this case, we've heard stories that some individuals have actually invested in funds, made it a supporting arm, and really been able to help a business grow, some investments they've made. But unfortunately, there are very few cases, but they're there, where they've taken an idea and tried and done something on their own, or incorporated within an existing investment of theirs. Mm-hmm. Because they come from the same area. Right? So, any advice as to how one should prepare because like you said, you have to prepare. If you have a SaaS product, you would like to go to an investor who's invested in SaaS products.
Can I twist that question?
Yeah, please.
I think I'm getting what you're coming to, but there's a question actually to when you pick the company that you want to set up. And many of us actually start with the ideation. Oh, I want to do this. Have you really thought that idea has not been solved first? The cardinal mistake we find out after meeting 20 investors, like every time he Googles the same thing, it's already been done. How are you doing it differently? Right? What are you trying to actually solve? Is it actually a problem worth solving? Right? Like if you end up going to Silicon Valley, it's very difficult to get problems to solve. And sometimes you find ventures, why the hell there's so much money raised, they're not solving a problem. Right? But that's the important part, that if you're solving a genuine new problem, then there's a different thing that you're chasing, and which actually results in something else. The other part is, if let's say many of us end up doing B2B businesses, right? or models which are not where eventually there's an acquisition from another company to look at acceptance there, which means that your product has to have some acceptance in the category upfront. Right? Sometimes getting them to invest is a great idea. And keep looking at opportunities that can you do that. Like today I meet many companies, like every time I meet in the FinTech circle, many early stage companies, oh, you're only 2, 3 years old, we can also do this model, so we're also doing it. And we've gone to the grind of 3 years. There's a evolution already being created. If you want to do something fresh, the investor stacks are cleaned out, they've burned their hands wherever they had to. Now the next set of investors will look at and say, oh, I'm in the next category. It's very difficult in our category to go raise a Series A. Because the gap between the small guys and let's say a 3-year-old ones have become really large. The Series A guys tried everywhere, either they did a good job or they burned out. So you look at that. Is this what you want to personally do for the next 10 years? And that's very important. Some of us end up becoming entrepreneurs very early in our career lives. Right? But do you really have understood that you want to do this for the next 10 years? Or you start saying, oh, I just want to become an entrepreneur. And that stems from the part that have you explored other things also?
True. It's a phenomenal thing that you said, because the model is really important. One needs to see the vision with regards to what you can accomplish. And doesn't matter if it's large or small, because the vision, everything is being developed around that. Right? Recently, I came across this article on LinkedIn where one of the renowned angel investors mentioned, a lot of entrepreneurs nowadays are coming to them with NDAs. So the actual question is, do you want the investor to sign an NDA or do you want them to sign a check? So in this case, what do you recommend? Of course, once going for the check, but you don't want to give away a lot of ideas. Maybe just a little thought.
So that's a fine print actually. See, sometimes ideas can actually be the reason why the company gets created. Sometimes it's about execution. We will be knowing what is actually more important. In our model, it was more about execution. There's nothing new. Banking is 300 years old. There's a bank in every lane. There's an ATM or a bank in every lane in the country today. Right? There are bank names which I've never heard, like Allahabad Sarkari Bank, Allahabad Bihari Bank, 6,000 crore balance sheet. Chicha Mata Sarkari Bank had 10,000 crore. You never heard of these guys. They're large. Are you really building something that large? You may not be able to succeed that much. But have you thought through it? Is it about execution ability, and because of execution you will build moat and technology and platform and do stuff, or you're actually curing cancer, right? There are two parts only. Like, if you believe you have an idea which is too protected, then you first file a patent, you take the product, you keep it quiet, you build it patiently, and then create a product. Right? If it's really about execution, then stop being so fearful. And the other part is stop pitching to every person possible. I know so many people who just kind of start selling. Am I the right guy to sell to? You don't need to sell to everyone. You find the right guy. He has to like you first before he says, okay, now sell. And that's very important.
So, since we've touched upon the points of funding, I want to come back to something that you said, which is really important, and many of us face, right? It's about people, right? Because at the end of the day, no matter the idea, everyone's working with people. What you said is finding and hiring the people or individuals that can handle stress. So, how should one go about building that team and knowing the individuals that can handle stress? Because
first, to stop causing stress. That's a very important part. Entrepreneurs have to learn how not to be stressed. Everything hits us है. मतलब लिक्विडिटी खराब है मार्केट में मेरे को स्ट्रेस हो रहा है. अरे क्या फर्क पड़ता है, खराब है तो है ना यार, कुछ नहीं कर सकते उसके बारे में. I can't do change micro economy in the country. Stop getting stressed about it. And because the less stressed you are, you'll pass on less stress to your team. The second part is you need to hire people and build them as entrepreneurs. It is not your idea, it has to become their idea. So, and there are various stages in company life. I think for the first 2 years, or the first year, I was the office boy also. When space finished off, I used to sit in the reception and work so that my developers have more peaceful place to work at. But today, I don't know 90% of the things. I have to free up my time. In fact, one of the board members said, "Can you go on a 3-week holiday and come?" Are you mad? I'm not used to it yet. I feel kill me if I take a 3-week holiday. She's not used to going anywhere. She always see me work. But that's the point. Can you get enough people to run things for you? And you need to invest in such people. And you will have to attract best-in-class talent. And talent doesn't come for money. He comes for the belief that he is going to do something much better in his life. I'm telling you, getting a job in a large company is very easy. उसको इतना ही काम करना है, उसको दिमाग थोड़ी यूज करना है, उसको जो बोला जाए एग्जीक्यूट करना है. Even if it's he's building best in class tech in the world's best company, he's doing point A to point B only because there's so many people there. Right? He has to believe that here he's solving a problem. Right? He believes that I'm important, and that's how you attract very good people. Like actually going and saying, I want who's the best in it. I don't care which part of the world he sits in. Let's get him. You'll be surprised. Sometimes people come at 1/5 their salaries. Right? He'll come and say, "Give me a little bit of more ESOP." No, I want to be here next 5 years. It's such a heartening thing to see a person say, "I want to be with you for 5 years." I remember hiring people in large companies. We used to wonder 6 महीना रुकेगा, 1 साल रुकेगा, 18 में रुकेगा क्या? Hire कर लेते हैं. If the HR said he stay for 18 months, hire the guy. Right? Now we talk about, can he stay with you for 5 years? Let's give him a 5-year vesting ESOP. Right? Look at the mindset difference. Right? And I think that's the ability. And for all of you are like trying to really look at getting inspired by companies who try to do something. Go spend a day in their office. In fact, if you are just come to my office, spend a day. You will feel out of energy at 4 o'clock because so much energy in that office and no one leads. I know throw people out at 8 o'clock because हमें भी जाना सोना है. It's too expensive to run the office 24/7. But the culture is different in early stage companies. You have to build that culture. It's not about being busy but being constructive. Right? Getting talent who believes that they can work extra hard. Right? And they enjoy that part. And you cannot build a company if you don't attract good talent. If you need to attract people in data science, you attract the best of them. If you need a person on, let's say, digital marketing, you need the best. You can't do with a mediocre guy. He's not take you anywhere in life. It doesn't make a difference how much he costs, how much he used to earn. If he says this is what is mine, he will come and work, and he will work here for much longer time. Usually, when I look at getting people, I always check if I post a problem to them on WhatsApp on a Sunday. Are they interested in working and giving me an answer back on that? Most of the time, the question asked is not to find out कि तुम busy हो कि देखोगे. See how cute about are you on work. You say, I don't want an answer today, but I saw the problem. I like the problem. I'll solve it. He has to find the problem exciting enough to say, I'll solve it for you, don't worry.
I mean, that's one of the most important points. Having team members just take ideas and become entrepreneurs. So we have quite a few in our audience that are still working and associated with jobs. You've come from an amazing background where you were part of, let's say, Bajaj Alliance, where it started small. As an idea as a different business unit and it grew to a phenomenal size in those number of years that you associated with them. So there's two things. We were talking about it earlier, right? I mean, become an entrepreneur, what people say, kind of create an idea or create something new within an organization. Or B, there's a particular gap, go create that where where the problem arises. But for that, you gave me a phenomenal response about actually a mindset. If you could share that with our
So I mentioned about this, you said entrepreneur or intrapreneur is a bad word to use. Make a difference. It's a mindset. And I was recently reading a book, Founders Mentality, right? Very good insight. I think the first part which comes to entrepreneurs is the frontline focus. धंधा कैसे करना है? Everything is enablement. Right? The minute you come in that mindset, you will get people in the company who will say, how do I get business happen? So in fact, in the morning, before I came in, I spent 10 minutes with one of our junior finance person. Yesterday, he was having a fight with someone. Right? He was fighting genuinely correct. He said the guy has not negotiated on Diwali gifts. Right? And trust me, it was a vocal fight in the office happening. He said 5 rupees bach jata. Right? Of course, 5 rupees into 1,000 gifts is 50,000 rupees. You care about it, people will talk. But I spent 10 minutes with him and had a cup of coffee in the morning. It's not about the saving of 50,000 rupees, but you didn't get the guy who was executing believe that it's his 50,000 rupees. So the failure is not about asking the question, the failure is not making the other guy believe the question. He needs to ask that question. How do you get your people to have that mindset? As such a senior person in the company, I didn't have to go and spend that coffee early in the morning before I came here with him, but I did that. Because I wanted him to believe that he can train the next person to him to make him become an entrepreneur in the long run. He had the right question to ask, why has someone not negotiated? But instead of asking the answer from the gentleman, he had to force him to ask the question. Right? Ask him what else can we do to negotiate better? Because when the junior most person believes that he follows that thinking of saving money, right? It makes a difference. And a finance person causing that is a very difficult journey. Right? So, in fact, there was a message I just read a minute back. He said, "Thank you very much. I tried it with someone." Right? You'll be surprised that the rate fell by 30 more % because that person went and fought to save more money. And that's the important part, that people, once they learn something, they love to teach the next person the same part. Right? Entrepreneurship, unfortunately, cannot be learned. It's a mindset. But mindsets can get created. It takes time. But you have to create people learn the best by example. And if they see a mindset example of someone else doing it, they will learn. As you build your own companies, you need not one founder, but 50 founders who are doing something more with you. And in large companies, I actually saw that. One of the companies which I got hired, I was surprised when I was getting hired. In fact, I told the promoter, "Don't you think I'm too young for this company? You're asking most of my reportees are 10 years older than me. It will be an HR nightmare to manage that." He said, "Yeah, but mindset to अच्छा है ना? धंधा करना है हमारे को. We need people with the mindset to improve business. You'll figure out how to solve the problem. How to get the mindset." And I think that's the most important.
Great. Coming back to, let's say, the funding part. Mindsets, yes, extremely important, right? And when you're growing, you have to be extremely, not just frugal, but very smart with your money. Right? Because if someone has to reinvest, they see as to what kind of value the money is brought. Maybe not the returns, but what kind of value has been generated so far. So in this case, people think raising a Series A is, the objective of life, right? But there's so much more beyond that. So any advice with regards to when you raise money, what factors does one need to consider to move to the next level? Because we've heard so many stories about Series A, but very few that actually go to Series B.
So there are two parts. One is frugality and humbleness. Just because you raise money doesn't mean you stop being frugal. And remember that you are the office boy and the founder of the company together. Never forget that. Right? And you'll be surprised as the larger the company, the more humble the founder is. Like recently, I was 2 months back. I went to meet Ramdeji at Motila Roswell. I was surprised he spent 1.5 hours with me. Almost 1.5 hours with me. We didn't talk about anything, what we do, what business, but I learned 2 things from him very well. One of them I'll share with you. He said, don't run behind the next product until your cash cow is ready. Right? And he didn't have to teach me that, but he taught me because of the sheer entrepreneurial mindset that he had, and he felt obliged to make me also a better entrepreneur. It's such a strong point of view. Stop running behind too many products. Focus at your current product. Make sure it starts making money. Once that does it, then start doing something else. Right? And the same learning goes to us. Oh, because we raise Series B, let's do multiple things. Right? Recently, we spent time with our entire senior team. How to kill more projects. It is very difficult to sit down with people and say, we have so many things that we are doing, let's kill half of them. And no one will like to kill a project that he started driving. And actually, instead of half, taking 80% of left. But 20% that they left got executed under 60 days. Otherwise, kuch bhi nahi nikal jata. I'm sure we all use Jira cycles to get our tech product built out. We all have an MVP going on. We have a new product strategy getting delivered. We want to launch a new market, etc. But how to control the number of things you want to execute becomes the most important part. The habit of saying no is much more powerful than the habit of saying yes. And that comes with great practice.
Yeah, so definitely one of the first things that I've been learning is trying to say no. It's very difficult, but maybe I can touch base with you a little offline and see as to how. Coming to that, when you say you cancelled a couple of projects, that's really important. And it varies with regards to people that you're managing. Because someone is, they say age is an important factor, but a lot of experience is gotten by people with seniors. So in this case, earlier in the talk you mentioned, 15-year-olds have become successful. So I have younger people. And someone has become successful even at 60. I mean, everyone knows the story about KFC founder, right? Colonel Sanders. So in this case, any suggestions about how should one use the time they have or the experience to be able to capitalize on what is working for them?
So I learned that actually by a mentor. And see, because once you work so many in the corporate life, you have this habit of giving instructions and you believe they get done. There's a very bad habit of sitting in a large company, large cabin. You open it and shout and something else happened over there. And you learn it very differently when you want some things to get done in a far more frugal, simpler, interesting way. Right? I think the lesson came and said that how do you learn that? Let's give an example that you need something to be done. The learning first comes and says that how it was done somewhere else. How, if you had to wear that hat of the bottom line executor, how would you do it? And then, like, we run a business that we didn't understand 3 years back. We never done lending in our life. None of us did lending on the line. Almost all the founding team came from non-lending background. All of us did not understand and very few tech was there. We had great things that we did in our past, but never did the actual product. But we had to learn it from the consumer's hand. And until I was surprised in 6 months' time, we were standing in front of a bank and telling them how to run lending. Because you learn that fast. It comes by really deep insight, working on the inside to the grassroots level. In fact, like there's a camera here, we're recording people. We went and recorded 1,000 customers who we felt should buy our product and understood when they look at money, credit, spending habits, what do they look at. We just kept recording, listening, sitting there patiently listening to people and kept writing our notes. And to do 1,000 recording, we only had weekends because that's the only time we used to have. Apart from working our weekends, nights, evening, whatever time we got. But we were so good at understanding the consumer and his habits of money. Suddenly he said, "Yeah, ऐसे ही बनाना है product. This is how he understands money. We have to cater to his requirement." So sometimes you learn best from your consumer. In B2B models, you learn best from your consumer. Don't be in a hurry to sell something there. Learn to hear him out. He'll tell you the problems and then you can cater this problem much better. You have a SaaS model, but nobody doesn't understand what SaaS is. You don't know the full form of it. People think it's a company. Right? So really, how is it going to solve a problem for you? What is it going to evolve into? How do you see the vision coming in later is much later. I think those are the simple answers to it.
There's a saying, which you said is, doing everything, right? So we keep hearing, someone says, I'd rather be a jack of all than a master of all. Someone would say, I'd rather be a master of none than a jack of all. As a startup, there's certain things that is your core product, but you have these complementary things like finance or marketing and sales, which is really important, and different factors which are pillars of the business. But so, what would you recommend doing them, jack of all or master of one?
Both actually. See, there's something that you have to be best at, and there's something that you have to learn how to review the other guy who's best at it. See, reviews are the most important things that you go through while building up execution. You don't need to know everything. You need to know how to review the other person who does it. That is a very different art that you have to learn. It's very difficult to review a data scientist. But now you exactly know how to review him. And reviews have to be regular, focused, literally seasoned every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever cycle it. You have to be the most impatient person to get it done on the correct time, correct schedule, correct format. What happens is when you start a company, first 10 people are your friends and family. Some guy who got someone who may not be the best guy, he's also learning. Over time you make a large company, and then you're stuck with a person who was with you, but he's not the best. But he had to hire the best along with him to make it better. How do you get him to review the right guy? Teach him how to review is most important. So you can end up reviewing the entire thing. And also very important, as you're build your dashboard, build your tracking system, build to know what's happening in the company. You cannot have passive reports coming in. Right? Today, new technology allows so much of active reporting systems coming in. You know how to review people much better. And that makes the difference. I think in my understanding, you can be the best at one thing in life, you need to be best in something. Like, if you have not, I was the best, I used to call myself as the best in marketing, right? But today I don't do my own marketing, I hired the best in marketing guy for my business. Right? But I know how to review everyone in the company. My work is to review people and give them what more to be done. My work is not to do it myself.
Thank you for that. And we're definitely going to connect with you offline to get your feedback and advice as to how we could possibly do that. So I'll ask 3 last questions. I know all of us are eager to ask you more questions once the recording is off. So one of the things we really focus on these events is, everyone sees the successes. It's like an iceberg. You see the tip of the iceberg, but which are the successes, but not the failures, which is within the water, which is like 80% on 90%. So any failures that you'd like to share with us that we can learn from, not to repeat in our own journeys?
So we all failed. Celebrating failures is extremely important, but not taking them personally is the most important. Right? You have to remember it, but not procrastinate on it. We also did many mistakes, like we acquired a company, we thought that we can take the tech, combine with our tech, and realized because the platforms don't work each other, we will destroy it and rebuild it. But the learning was that we liked the team. And we said, I think we'll do something else. They can build another product line together and we'll work on that journey. But I would say the learning always has been that can you quickly learn, right? And keep the learnings permanently intact and never do the same mistake again. The cardinal mistake is if you keep doing the same stupid mistake again and again and again. And as sometimes as entrepreneurs we say, oh ये किया था, उस समय ये गलती हुआ था, अब नहीं होगा. If you did that mistake that time, you're bound to do it again. There's no point even thinking I'll do it again like that. And you have to accept it and move on. And I always tell people, you need to fail a lot to succeed in something. Right? At least in my professional life, the marketing guys always do 50 experiments, one work. You only see the experiment which came on TV worked. You never found out about the other that we ran which was quite stupid in life. But you learn from them. But are you doing those 10 every month to figure out which one is going to work is important? Or at least 2-3 of them to experiment to say it's running well or not. Like how many of you invest in A/B testing at any given time? Sometimes I think ऐसे ही होना चाहिए. कोई बात नहीं, let the other guy also put up a proposition, see what works for the consumer or for the acceptance, etc. And you'll see the difference coming. You'll be surprised most of the time you're wrong. Because you're so close to it that you couldn't see the flaw.
So second last question. Work-life balance.
नहीं होता. सोचना भी नहीं चाहिए. Make sure you tell your wife, too bad, next 3 years are going to be tough.
If lucky, yeah, 3 years. But great. And finally, any books you would recommend us to read?
I recently read The Founder Mentality. I quite liked it. But there are lots of good inspiring work actually. Apart from, don't just read a book because someone said to read it. Read it because you felt there's something that you want to learn at that time. The biggest mistake we do is, 5 people recommended this book, let's all read it. But तुम्हारी life में वो फर्क पड़ेगा कि नहीं पड़ेगा ना? Because what happens is you read it, you try to implement it. That's the biggest flaw that we end up reading. Most of the time I read a book, I read 5 notes out of it, then try to execute and say, shit, ये तो किसी और business लेता, मेरा क्या करूँगा? So, but of course read a bit, it helps.
Phenomenal. I mean, thank you so much. There's tons of questions I want to ask you, but like I said, every one of us is eager to ask you more questions. And thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. You've amazing insights. So, let's give him a big round of applause.